Ready when you
Slept much in the last week and a half. So.
Okay, welcome everybody. We're right on time. Get started with our work session, and we're going to ask Mr. Wheeler to share comments with us. Randy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Also, we'll take a moment and thank the superintendent of schools that's joined us this evening. He is sitting over Kim's shoulder. So if you have specific school questions now or later in the meeting, I'm sure he would be glad to speak to those.
Okay.
So today, what we thought we would do is really do four things as a start, and you all can take this work session wherever works best for you. But what we'd like to do is to do a very brief summary of the budget we did last time, just in case there's somebody joining us on TV or someone here that hasn't seen it up till now. Talk about the Poquoson Museum funding, update you on the status of the state budget or lack thereof, and entertain any questions that you have.
Okay, great.
So we'll proceed that way, and thanks to Tara for putting this together. That's what I just said. I won't read it to you again. Just a reminder and a few slides. It's difficult to summarize a 250-ish page document, but we'll try to do it in 3 pages. The budget itself, total general fund budget, is a little more than, it's about $38.5 million, about $1.5 million more than the current year's budget, or a 4.3% increase. As you know, I have recommended a real estate tax increase from 111 to 114 for the sole purpose of providing compensation increases for both school personnel and city personnel. We have, and we'll show you the next slide, significant additional obligations from our regional partners and our shared service providers to include, but not limited to, jail, York County, Newport News, in both animal control and the animal shelter. We did see a significant increase in the state's required amount for the retirement system. You'll see what it is up there. That is a rate that resets every 2 years based on our specific actuarial picture. We saw a small increase for health insurance. And then lastly, 2 items. The school board requested $508,000 of additional local funding. That's in addition to their state and federal budget. This is the local funding only. And this budget does recommend that amount of money as requested by the school board. Lastly, on this page, back up half a paragraph, the school board requested that so that they would be able to, when modeling on the governor's budget, provide a 5% compensation increase for all school employees. For city staff, what we're recommending is a 4% compensation adjustment for all permanent staff to include part-time and full-time employees, as well as merit compression-based staff for eligible employees. And the criteria to be eligible is at the bottom. Keith? Of course.
On the increase for the VRS, are the employees also getting hit with an increase? I know we're paying like our part. Are the employees also having to pony up some more?
It's just on us.
Okay.
All right. So you'll remember this chart from last time. I'll go quickly through it. Please stop me if I'm going too fast. This is our net projected increase in general fund revenue without any change to any of the tax rates, $954,000. The required expenditures, I've kind of spoken about some of these. $275,000 is the incremental cost, full year funding of the 3 fire and 3 police positions we added at mid-year this year. I already talked about the VRS increase. That's the amount, that's what it quantifies to. Health insurance, 0.4% increase, comes out to a little bit more than $50,000. Our shared services with York County incorporates our required support for the sheriff's office, the clerk of the court, Commonwealth's attorney, certain costs relating to the maintenance and upkeep of the physical plant for those 3 departments, as well as social services and the E911 center that we're in jointly with ourselves, as well as Williamsburg and James City County. So that's 100. Spoke about the animal shelter before. This is a combination of the two. Newport News provides animal control services for us on a contract basis, and separately, but just as important, we are a participant in the regional animal shelter, which is located in Newport News, and that is us, as well as Hampton and York. Next up is the regional jail, which we are a party to with York, Williamsburg, and James City. And this is juvenile detention and colonial group home. I won't go through the 17 members of the Merrimack Center. Despite the fact that I am the chairman at the moment, I'm not sure I could do all 17 without a miss, without a cheat sheet. And then other regional programs, which. So when you look at the things that are pretty much got-to-do obligations, and you take them away from that original $954,000, it leaves you as $204,000. And that's $204,000 before we have even thought about adding any positions. There are no general fund additional positions in the budget. Thought about new programs, of which there are none in the general fund, or school contribution, or any type of compensation increase for our employees. So that's where we started. And in the next slide, we'll take that $204,000 net, and we'll hit the key components of the changes. First is the recommended local funding increase from the school board, $508,000, again, to allow them to do essentially a 5% pay increase for their employees. I will footnote to you once again that this is in no way an outlier in a positive way for the region that we're in. York County, which is our closest competitor, is at 5 for local government and 5 to 5.5 in schools. Others of our neighbors are more significant than that. No one is exactly the same as anyone else, but this will do a 508, and again, it's modeled on the governor's budget. And I just flash ahead a couple of minutes. At this point, the governor's budget is dead, and so is the General Assembly's. And they're going to come back in the middle of May and start over. And I don't know what that will mean, and I don't know when it will conclude. So we have more than the usual question mark. Normally, you can base a budget on the governor's budget and know that if it changes at all, it's likely to improve. That's been my experience, and I think Tara would agree, and her experience as well. There is no guarantee at all this upcoming time. We were fortunate that our required contributions to the Capital Projects Fund this year were less than, or in the coming year, than this year, so we take that in form of a credit, which helps us here. OPEB is the post-employment benefits which you all have established. We saw more than our usual number of early retirees this year, and so that's why that number is up a little bit. It will go up or down depending upon the number of people entering into the program, but also they come off at a certain age too, so they don't stay on forever. We had a significant number of requests to increase departmental line items. Tara and her team go through each one of those. Some we can do, some we can't. Some are an absolute priority. Some fall in the nice to have, need to have, but may not be able to afford category. And to kind of roll that all up to say that $23,733 in other operating costs across the several departments net that you'll see here. And for us, I spoke to it, I'm going to just clip by city compensation increases, as I talked about on the previous couple of slides, is there as well. You'll see the cost for us is approximately the same cost as the schools, costing you that the city's compensation increase is paid wholly by the locality. In the school system, they get significant state revenue as well as some federal money. So that is a portion of their budget. A significant portion, but a portion. So in order to make this work and in order to meet the school board's request and to put forward a comparable city compensation adjustment similar to the schools and keeps us at least at pace with York County, see the recommendation for a 3-cent tax increase to get that. Bottom, if you do the math, it's a little less than 208,000 per pet. I worked in places where that number exceeded 2 million. I think when I came here, it was closer to 150. So I'll stop there for a second, see if there are any questions not relating to the museum.
Okay. Anybody have questions?
There'll also be time for questions at the end. But
Okay. Go ahead.
all right. So, as council is aware, over the last several meetings, we've had individual come and speak to council and talk about and ask you to give thought to our continuing funding to the museum. The current budget and the proposed budget both contain a $11,500 contribution from the city to the museum. We changed it in 2021 from $10,000 to $11,500. Even before we were making an operating contribution to the museum, we were assisting them by contracting to have the large field cut. We had been doing that prior to my arrival 15 years ago. In 2021, we just made the decision that we would take the money that we were already spending for that purpose and move it out of our budget and move it to the museum. That way, we got one less cook in the kitchen in terms of timing and getting that contractor there and at a time that's optimal for the museum. A couple of other things council will recall over an extended period of time, ending in 2020, we have been slowly forgiving the initial portion of the investment to buy that property. And the reason I mentioned that one is for historical context, but also if you look back far enough in our financials, you'll see a much larger number going to the museum, and that was the debt write-off each year, because it was something we carried on our books as an accounts receivable, and we needed to formally forgive it through the budget process. Additionally, from time to time, the museum does have special events out there. Goes to War as an example, and sometimes they'll ask us for additional assistance, and that will be sometime in the middle of the year. Often it's things like trash boxes and other things, but at other times they have asked for assistance and have asked you specifically for assistance. So all of that is to say that the normal contribution to the museum is $11,500, $10,000 of which is for operating support, $1,500 of that is for the cutting of the grass, particularly the large field is what I'm talking about. And staff would appreciate direction from City Council if you would like the final budget ordinances, to reflect any change from our previous, current, and recommended funding level for the museum.
Okay, let's right out of the gate with that issue. I've spoken with some of you, not all of you, because I just haven't had time to do that. I remember, and Carrie, you may remember, and Debbie, I was thinking today, you may even remember, when the museum first started, or at least when the citizens group got together and we're looking at the property, we're looking at the house, we're looking at Miss Becky's store. I know that we had a fair amount of citizens in this community that put out a lot of money to make this thing work. For me, I don't know how we get by with that amount, to be honest with you, but they certainly deserve to have that amount. And, at the time, it was kind of, I think the word of the city council at the time, and I understand that you could change it, the council's minds change. I don't think that's the case here tonight. But I would certainly not like to see, or want to see rather, those dollars deleted from the budget. I think they do a really good job down there, in terms of, the issues. I don't think that's our call. If there are membership issues between membership and folks that are having some problems with them, I don't think it's with us. I think our decision should be, what are we going to do with that money? Are we going to give it to them, or are we not going to give it to them? This is a really good place to find out, and we put it to bed once and for all.
Yeah, I was in that initial meeting with you and the museum people way back, and every time I ride by there or down that road, there are people there, and I think the public, even though it's private property, the public uses it pretty much as a public park. And for the amount of people that do that, we're talking about a little less than $1,000 a month to have that available. I'm good with it.
Any other comments about the museum? Keith?
Yeah, I do. I'd just like to say I thank Tara for all the information you gave us. It was really valuable, helped me out. And I took a chance on the 13th. I went down to the museum to see who might be there, and it turned out it was Mr. Frank Rezick, who's the treasurer of their foundation. And we had a nice goings over of the budget. And I'll admit, kind of comparatively, I've been the treasurer of our Lions Club for about 7 years. That doesn't make me an expert on accounting, but our numbers are about the same as the museum has. And I started looking at how they do their things versus we do our things. And I was asking him questions, and we were telling stories. We were there for about an hour talking, and it became apparent to me that I couldn't see their numbers, but that he knows their numbers, that he knows what they're asking for, and therefore the numbers that they put out are basically in reply to what we put out and what we want from them. And even though it doesn't match what I normally would see in a budget, I fully understood that he understood where their money was at and where it was coming from. What it lacked was, here's how much money we have, and here's how much money we're going to have at the end. And then I started looking at the city budget. It's pretty much the same thing. We don't know how much the city, what Randy's sitting on, if he's sitting on anything, and how much is at the very end. But we know how much we need to operate for the year, and that's what the budget's supposed to be all about. So after about an hour of talking with him, I came away with the feeling that even though their bookkeeping might be improved, and getting that point across to us in these kind of forms, they do, as you're saying, a valuable service for our community. I've said before that I'm kind of envious being in the Air Force and going all over the place and then finally settling here in 1994. I missed the opportunity to have to walk down the street where my grandparents walked, which some people in the community can do. To go to the same pier, so to speak, go to the same school. It's just something that I've never been able to do, and I'm kind of jealous of some of those people. And that museum is able to provide that. I also feel for them in that their membership is low, according to what Frank said. But I think those of us in civic groups know that membership is hard to come by outside of our generation. So they've got a tough road to hoe, so to speak, road to hoe, as do we all. But they're providing something that we can't. You're right. The numbers are there, especially for that walk the trail and go back and can benefit from reading the signs and stuff like that, as well as going in to the museum as it stands now and hopefully in the future. So I tend to support it. I'd work with them if I can as far as their paperwork goes to match up with this stuff, because otherwise, other than the paperwork, everything seems to be on track down there.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, so go ahead, bud.
I'm good with it.
Oh, okay. So we're going to keep it in the budget.
Yes, sir.
All right. Second item that I think is probably the most important part of the whole budget is our compensation to our employees. I've mentioned it before that there's not one sitting around this table who has not complimented many times regarding the job that all of our folks do. from a city manager right on down. And, you know, for us to be able to keep good people employed here, we've got to at least, you know, stay close. And even with this 5% or the 4-1, if we're going to have good teachers in our community, that's what we want. That's what our citizens want. You know, if we're going to continue to have the extraordinary job that all of the departments do, they have to be compensated. And I'm no fan of tax increases, but in this particular case, when it comes to our employees, I think they've earned it, number one, and I think they deserve it, number two. You know, our teachers, I think we have some of the best, and certainly our employees are just, you know, just top of the line, just right around the city and look. And Keith, you mentioned it. You know, I could go and ride around Hampton, and it doesn't look like anything like Poquoson, nothing. And it's all due to the folks that do the job on a daily basis. And not only that, they do a really good job of public relations. If you stop and talk to some of the crews that are out cleaning ditches, those kinds of things, they're very prideful about that. Can you imagine being prideful about cleaning a ditch? At the Seafood Festival, Tanya was with me actually, and we talked to a police officer from Newport News who really wanted to come to Poquoson. So why in the world would you want to come to Poquoson with the money discrepancy, and it was probably $8,000 or $9,000 difference there? He said, well, number one, I'm a single parent, so you know they won't let me work a certain shift. They made me work the night shift. I don't have any choice about that. So I can't be with my child. Can't see what's going on in school. None of those things. And then he said, you know, the other thing that really bothers me is that I think the city government at Poquoson would appreciate me. I said, they don't in Newport News? He said, not as far as I'm concerned. He said, I don't like being spit on. And I can tell you, if that happened here, I think we would look at that in a whole different light. I think we're different in so many ways. We just, you know, we're kind of sitting out there by ourselves, and nobody can compare to our employees, to this budget, and the time and the effort that's put into that, and to come out with what you have, I think it's remarkable, just remarkable. And so, again, to those folks that are watching, I am no fan of tax increases, but I support the staff 100%, and I think this is just a minimum. Now, one other, I know the superintendent's here, and he may want to address it, or Randy will be fine. Currently in the General Assembly, I don't have a lot of friends. There are some that are left there. And I've talked to the superintendent about it, I've talked to Randy about this, but there is some movement regarding the budget. Yes, they have to come back. Yes, they have to start again. But the contact that I have is in appropriations. I think this was probably at least a month and a half ago when I talked to the superintendent about it. They're describing to me 3 pots of money that are sitting there. Nobody's going to get a dime out of any of them now. But they are convinced that at the end of the day, that these 3 pots of money are going to go to our schools. That's what they said. What was in the governor's budget, and then what additional money they believe will be in the budget for our schools. And I was saying to the superintendent and to Randy as well, you know, they've worked through this as close as they possibly can. If there's any more money that comes into this city, can we be a part of that? And I think the superintendent agreed with that. I think Randy agreed with that, and I think they've had that conversation. I don't want to predict that there'll be so much money there that we could, you know, take the increase this year and just wipe it away. We can't do that. But you may have an opportunity to do that next year. And I would encourage you to kind of just wait, see what the General Assembly does. If that money comes through, I think you'll have an entirely different budget next year. School system will have an entirely different budget next year. I won't be here, but you guys will be here, and I've got all the faith in the world in each and every one of you. And you'll send a budget to our citizens that will be probably more receptive maybe than this one. There are going to be some upset people about a 3-cent tax increase. I looked at the graph that I guess Randy did, maybe Tara did the graph. And so it's kind of up and down. You've had times when you've increased taxes, and you've had times when you reduced them. Yeah, so you know, it happens. And I think when people understand, or if they're watching us tonight and they know that, you know, this is what this is about. This is not about building this building out here. This is not buying a new bulldozer, new cars, none of those things. We want to take care of our employees. And I think they've earned it, deserve it, and I support it. Okay, anybody else? Any questions about the budget? If not, we got 4 minutes. Okay, we're done.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome. Let's call this meeting to order, and I'll ask the Vice Mayor to have our invocation. Listen, stand, please.
Pray with me. Gracious God, we praise you and thank you for our city, our state, and our nation. We ask you to be with us and guide us in our decisions tonight. Bless our first responders and our military. We ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Kerry. All right, we're going to move to item C on our agenda, which is always our audience for visitors. I have one speaker tonight, and I'm just going to call her Sam. For all of you who don't know her, that's Sam. So, Sam, we'd like to hear from you right now.
Good evening. Thank you for taking time and allowing me to speak. My name is Sam Kukic. I've been a resident of Poquoson for almost 35 years. In 1988, my husband and I decided to retire here when we finished the Army, here in Poquoson, so that our daughters could benefit from the good school system and the safe environment. Yes, SafeWise, the safety organization, which each year determines the safest cities in each state, recently found Poquoson to be the 6th most safest city in the state of Virginia. So we're doing good. It is for this reason, in 2016, we decided to move my mother-in-law here so she could enjoy her last years with us. This happy scenario was not to be. Turns out, our little town is not safe for everybody, especially those individuals who need the most care and are the most vulnerable. I'm speaking about the residents of Bayside of Poquoson Health and Rehab on Old Yorktown Road. Our one and only nursing home, Bayside Poquoson Health and Rehab, is currently rated a 1-star facility by Medicaid.gov on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest. A facility cannot be rated any lower than a 1. Additionally, Bayside of Poquoson is currently on the nursing home abuse watch list. You might ask, what gets a nursing home on this list? Well, first of all, actual harm. The facility causes serious harm or injury or impairment in the worst case of even a death of a resident. Secondly, the history of actual harm. The facility has a history of at least 5 actual harm findings. And the third is to be on the special focus facility, and this facility has a history of serious quality issues. Bayside of Poquoson is a for-profit corporation with 60 certified beds owned by Trio Healthcare LLC, which currently operates 11 senior living facilities in Virginia. And in my opinion, Bayside of Poquoson has attached our city's name to its business to benefit from our reputation as a safe city, when it is not found to be a safe city. Trio's healthcare mission statement, thus the mission statement of Bayside, is to make a positive difference in the lives we serve by providing competent, compassionate, and an outcome-oriented care every single day. Unfortunately, this statement could not be further from the truth. Poquoson has a population of roughly 13,000 people, of which 1,550 are veterans, and of that, 1,000 of them are over the age of 55. I have visited many of the nursing homes in Hampton Roads, and it concerns me greatly that we only have 2 facilities in our little town. One is assisted living, and the other is a long-term care, and both are seriously lacking in providing the care that they advertise. As a result, residents and family members are left to deal with a horrible situation of abuse, neglect, and even death. And many try to report what's going on only to be ignored, or they worry about retribution issues. So they stay silent. I even had a front page article of the story of my mother-in-law to help get the word out. This is not a picture I believe is very complimentary, but it's the sad truth, and it's real. I have not stayed silent. And I believe these residents and family members in our town deserve a voice that will protect them and any future residents from the terrible living conditions in these 2 facilities. For those of you who are not aware, 22 of the 50 United States have failing grades for nursing homes. Virginia falls 36th in the nation with a grade of D. There are 285 nursing homes in Virginia, and 159 of them are on the nursing home abuse watch list. I am the director of Dignity for the Aged, a nonprofit organization that provides resources and information to help residents and their families. We have over 1,600 members nationwide, with a chapter in each state. Our headquarters is here in Poquoson. We have contacted legislators to establish ratios in Virginia. We stood on the steps of the Capitol building in D.C. to support family caregivers. We have written hundreds of letters, and still these poor residents are left to sit in their own waste and wait for someone to listen and provide the care and dignity they deserve. These individuals served our country. They taught our children, and they created the wonderful town that we live in. It's time for our leadership to step up. They deserve better, and we should be ashamed if we wait one more day to ponder the consequences of turning our heads and walking away. Therefore, as a resident of this fine city that we love living in, my question is, what can you do as the City Poquoson Council? What are you going to do about these substandard facilities which advertises the provision of competent, compassionate, and outcome-oriented care every day, but you fail to live up to that mission statement? The residents of our city deserve better. Proverbs 31:8 says, "Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute." And that's why I'm here tonight. And I thank you for giving me your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or provide any information that you might need.
Sam, we don't do questions and answers in this particular part of our agenda. However, if you would leave your contact information, and by the way, that was a great presentation. If you would leave your contact information with Miss Christie there right there, and if you could distribute that to members of council, so that they want to, talk to Sam in another setting, then that would be great. Thank you, ma'am, so much.
Thank you, too.
Appreciate it.
Sam, excuse me, one question. Are both facilities rated 1 star?
I don't know specifically because the Wythe Creek one, Dominion Village, is assisted living, and it goes by different standards and different ratings. But even tonight, right before I came here, I had a resident family member call me and say that they found an 85-year-old woman with dementia out on the street walking in her walker lost, and they did not know she was out of the facility. So they are lacking seriously there as well.
Yeah, Sam, wait a minute. Yeah.
Well, I was just,
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to tell you that I saw that Facebook article that you wrote about our mayor and your visit, and I thought that was a very good article and good publicity for y'all.
Thank you. Can I tell them about that?
Go ahead.
I know this is not.
We're just throwing the rules right out of the window.
Well, being the dignity director, we have been fighting this situation for about 6 years, and it's heartbreaking. It really is. I actually was arrested once for taking a daughter to see her dying mother. That's what happens when you have family members who stand up and say, you can't abuse my loved one. This is how they're treated, and that's why many people don't stand up. But in an effort to give some hope to the residents who are sitting there waiting, and I wasn't trying to be graphic, but some of them are sitting there and haven't been changed in hours in their own waste, and it is sad. But what we did is we created a program called Letters From Me to You. And this program, we have different schools, key clubs, different high school kids, people belonging in church, neighbors, neighborhood kids. We get together and we send cards to all the residents in the nursing home in Hampton Roads. And my husband, the saint that he is, helps me deliver them. But we decided to make Bayside our prototype because we are fighting a lot of, I hate to use fighting, but nobody's working with us to make any changes. And so we decided since our headquarters is here in Poquoson, we would start with Poquoson. One way to start with Poquoson would be to make a special occasion, to go there and deliver something. And I invited Mayor Helsel to come with me, and he did come with me. And it does make a difference, but it hasn't changed anything yet. So we're still trying to help the people who are waiting for us to help by encouraging them with cards.
Okay, anything else? Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, let's move on to our approval of our minutes from a regular session, April the 8th, 2024.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the regular session, April 8, 2024.
All right. All right, we have a motion made and second. We adopt those minutes from the regular session of April 8th, 2024. Any concerns, any comments, or the questions? If not, Ms. Kim?
Councilman Hux,
Aye.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett,
Aye.
Councilwoman Bunting,
Aye.
Bye,
Aye.
Mayor Hessel.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, thanks, Kim. Let's move on to item E. There are two public hearings tonight. The first one, proposed FY 2025 real estate property tax. Our first reading, there's no action required by council. Mr. Wheeler?
Only to briefly summarize where we were before. The current real estate property tax rate is $1.11 for $100 of valuation, and for the reasons articulated, I am recommending a 3-cent increase to $1.14 per $100 per valuation, which is the rate that we were at a few years ago. And that's the purpose of the first hearing. The purpose of the second hearing is a general discussion on the budget itself. But the two are intertwined, so if folks speak, it's okay if they go back.
All righty. Any questions of the manager? I think he probably pretty well covered it in our work session. Let's open the public hearing then and ask if there's anyone in our audience that would like to address this our proposed FY 2025 real estate property tax increase. Seeing none, close the public hearing. We'll move on to public hearing number 2, proposed FY 2025 annual financial plan. Also the first reading, no action by council. Any comments about that, Randy?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this is the entirety of the general fund budget, which is inclusive of the tax rate we referenced, but is also the plan for the general fund, the school contribution, capital projects fund, and various other operating funds. Didn't note it this in the work session, but I'll note it here. The only proposed change to any tax rate is the all other tax rates and almost all fees except for like user fees designed to pay for something like a parks program or something like that remain unchanged.
Okay. Let's open the public hearing then and ask if there's anyone in our audience here tonight that would like to address the proposed 2025 annual financial plan. Mr. Talcott, right here, sir. You're welcome.
I appreciate the opportunity to come back, I guess, for the third time this year. I appreciate you putting the funding for the Poquoson Museum into your work session. That was my request, I guess. I appreciate that you decided to go ahead and continue with the funding as proposed to the museum. I'll remind you all that when I was a board member of the museum, it was my idea at that time to approach the city council because of the funding that the museum had was not going to be sufficient to maintain the lights and all that kind of stuff. So I'm the person that actually suggested to the board that we come to the council and ask for help and assistance from the council. And at that time, it was extremely beneficial. Okay, it allowed the museum to not have to worry about keeping the lights on and paying for those other funds. And the whole purpose behind that was then to allow the museum to focus its activities on the things that could improve the facility and go forward with their vision. Their vision is posted on their kiosk out there. I hope I live long enough to see part of it come true. Okay, as everyone mentioned, the real draw for the Poquoson Museum is that piece of property. There are hundreds, thousands of people that come there regularly to actually walk on the trail, take in the atmosphere and that. So that I truly understand, I believe. The trick is, even when I was on the board, I suggested and lobbied the city, and they took my idea and listed the Poquoson Museum as a recreational facility, along with the parks. I said, it is probably one of the best places in the town to go and get out and about, and they do have the educational signage and all that, okay? But the museum is not the same museum it was when I was on that board, okay? At that time, there was a lot of interaction, several hundred members. The members may not have been active members, but the members are actively involved in understanding what was going on at the museum. I was the secretary when I was on the board. I made it my goal to ensure that the members of the museum knew what was going on at the museum. When we were going to have a membership meeting, I sent out an agenda. To be honest with you, not very many people came, okay? I didn't care. We took minutes. I made sure that all the members that I could contact got copies of those minutes. Everyone knew what was coming up. Everyone knew what had been discussed at board meetings and what was going on at the property, okay? That's not true today. I'm considering not renewing my membership of the meeting with the museum because I don't understand what it's worth to me. It's worth zero at this point in time. There's no communication between the museum and myself. I don't know anything about their financials. I appreciate Randy and his office sharing with me the information they provided to you, okay? I'm probably in the same boat as Keith. I don't quite understand how they do their finances. Even when I was on the board, it was kind of a little honky. It's interesting that their fundraising activities for the last several years have resulted in a net loss. So if you spend if you raise $700 and lose $3,000 something multiple years in a row, my recommendation is don't do any fundraising, okay? It makes no sense. When the city is giving you $12,000 almost, then to go ahead and lose $2,500, $3,000 in, quote, fundraising, okay? The other thing is, and Keith may have looked at it too, I worked in the government. I understand how budgets work. But the one thing you want to do is if you spend so much money one year, okay, and maybe run over, the next year you take into account the fact that happened. Well, I don't see that happening in their numbers. Okay, I believe in one case they spent like $9,000 on security and insurance, and this year they're budgeting $4,500. I don't understand that, okay? How can you not take into account what happened last year and put it in your budget? To me, that's a failing proposition, okay? Then you're going to need to rely on somebody to stick that money in there because you don't even plan for coming up short, okay? And the bottom line is, as far as I can tell, they actually had $6,000 net last year. Okay, so if they have $6,000 net, do they need $11,500 from the city? Okay? Because like I said, as a member, I get zero, okay? As a citizen, they are open on Saturdays only, but they're never open on a holiday weekend. If I would like to go anywhere to a museum or whatever, when's the best time to go? Probably on a holiday weekend. When would somebody come here to visit me when I might be able to take them somewhere? Maybe a holiday weekend, okay? And again, I say the property is the draw. You could turn the lights off on that museum and the same number of people will come every day, okay? Because their dog doesn't care whether the lights are on in the museum, okay? They walk the trail. They enjoy the trail. I enjoy talking to the people. I hardly ever see a museum board member standing out there talking to anybody. So, in my opinion, is that the type of organization the city should support? An organization that totally ignores its membership and hardly interacts with the public, okay? So, this will be the last time I come because apparently the money's going to stay in the budget. That's fine. I will not renew my membership in the museum. I will continue to support the museum by what I currently do out there, but not as a member. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Elcott. Anyone else? All right, close public hearing. Any comments from council? Kerry, yes.
Yeah, we got a new business.
Did you have any comments regarding the museum?
Not that I haven't already said. I think
Okay.
a lot of people do enjoy it as a park, and every time I ride by, there's people out there.
Okay. All right, let's move on to new business. One item, resolution making appointments to the Economic Development Authority. Someone have a name?
Mr. Mayor, I propose a resolution appointing Kara J. Joyce to the Economic Development Authority. Her term will expire March 31, 2028.
Okay. Second. Okay. Motion made and seconded. That we adopt the resolution with that name inserted. Any other comments, concerns, any questions? If not, Ms. Kim?
Councilwoman Bunting?
Aye.
Councilman Fye?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Hucks?
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Mayor Hessel?
All right.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
All right, thanks, Kim. Comments to city manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last week, I had the privilege of speaking at the Poquoson Women's Club. I get asked to speak periodically at different community organizations. It was the first time I'd been asked to speak there, and I just wanted to say how much I appreciated that. They were gracious hosts. They asked great questions. And I thought I would just give you just a few of the things we talked about. And some of these are real recent, and so for the public as well. If you've noticed in the last week, they've begun a complete rebuild of TJ's Tavern. They're building a new building at the back of the property, and once that's done, they'll address the parking lot in the front. But in the end, the building will be bigger, purpose-built for their business, and the parking lot will be substantially improved. I heard today, this was a question that they asked last week at the Women's Club, with the future renovation and reuse of the Wells Fargo building, what will happen to the current Wells Fargo ATM, which is something we've been asking since that store went dark. And what I heard today was that they have completed all the building permits and other things necessary to relocate that to the Food Line Shopping Center. So it will be inserted into the wall somewhere between the Hong Kong restaurant and the left side doors to the grocery store. Also, last week we received the site plan submission we've been waiting for some time for the Starbucks, which is, you'll recall, is part of what I call a 3 Lego project. Lego 1 being Starbucks, Lego 2 being the expansion and reuse of the Wells Fargo building for a Montessori school, and then the last piece is some parking changes on Taylor Dental's property to account for the loss of parking associated with the Starbucks. And lastly, we got, Mr. Talcott gave us a brochure talking about Historic Garden Week coming up, and that's something exciting. And Poquoson is one of the featured communities. And you may have noticed the gardening or flower-themed Poquoson is the place sign on the Farm Fresh side of the Poquoson is the place sign at the old Wells Fargo property. I did that last week in recognition of the garden tour. I think it looks fantastic.
Beautiful.
That's all I have, sir.
Thanks, sir. Bud?
I'd just like to thank the people who came out to the city tonight to participate in their city government, and thank the people at home also for watching, and encourage their friends and neighbors to do the same. Thank you.
Okay. Angie?
I have a couple of things this evening. First of all, thank you, Mr. Talcott, for coming and being involved. I do wish that there were more people here for this very important public hearing. Hopefully people are watching at home. I want to say that, so I've been on council for almost a year, and in that time I have met with almost every department head, and I've heard about the recruitment and retention issues, but I've also heard about how hard their employees work and the pride that they take in the city, like you were saying earlier, Mr. Mayor. And I just really appreciate the city workers that we have here, and I think they do a great job. And again, I just reiterate that I want to make sure that we support them. And speaking of departments and what a great job they do, I was looking through the Parks and Recreation Summer Camp program guide, and looking through that, and I open it up, and there's great camps,
And then I turn the page, and there's more camps. And then I turn the page again, and there's more camps. And there are something like 30 summer camps around that number that are being offered. I've already signed my kids up for some. Really great job for a city of our size to have the diversity and quantity of summer camps that we have this summer is just amazing. And lastly, the Kiwanis Pig Roast is going to be May 4th. It's coming up on the corner of Victory and With Creek Road. It's always a great time and one of our fundraisers to help support youth in the community. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. David?
Thank you, Gordon. I have no comment.
Okay, Miss Debbie?
None tonight, Mr.
All right.
Mayor. Thank you.
Keith?
Yes, with relation to the Poquoson Mobile Food Pantry, Miss Pat Green has been an instrumental figure in that organization. Matter of fact, helped stand up with her husband, Buddy, former Councilman Buddy Green. And I think she was telling me, sorry, Pat, if I get this wrong, that she's been there every month except for 2 in the last 12 years. She's looking at finding a replacement. She basically is the person that oversees the need of the individuals that are on our list that we get, and confirming that before everybody receives their donations of food from the food pantry. If I'm going to give some information to the city manager so they can post on the site, looking for a volunteer to help ease the work done by Pat and eventually replace her in the coming months. So get that out. And for those that might be interested, because I've had one person ask, I have made the decision to run for re-election for my seat on the city council for this fall for another 4 years.
Okay.
That's it.
And you know, you said it right about Pat. She has done a phenomenal job. It's amazing. Anybody else have anything? Did you? I'm sorry.
Vice Mayor.
Oh, I thought I forgot the vice mayor. I'm sorry.
I just have a quick comment. Councilman Southall has a birthday coming up tomorrow. Just thought I'd say that. And other thing is that we have openings on boards and commissions, especially the Economic Development Authority, and encourage anyone that would like to be considered to apply. Board bank applications on the website, and they're real easy to download and print. Keep that in mind.
Okay.
That's
All right. Sorry I forgot you. Just one comment. I think if there are employees of ours or Randy's and teachers that might be watching tonight, I think they are probably thrilled with the decision of this council. You know, to have a 7-member council and every one of us stand together to make sure that our folks are taken care of, our teachers and our employees in the city. I think that's an amazing contribution. So I appreciate that. Okay, have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, sir. Second. All right, motion made, a second we adjourn. Ms. Kim?
Councilwoman Emmett,
Aye.
Councilman Hucks,
Aye.
Councilman Five,
Aye.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Councilwoman Bunting,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman, Mayor Hessel.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
All right, thanks, Kim. We adjourn.